Mao in the early 60s.
When it comes to Marxism, fascism, socialism, Maoism, Leninism, or communism, the lines and the differences in the meaning of those systems are so thin that they might as well all be the same. And they are all the same in my sight. And let me read you the definition of a statist. It says, an advocate of a political system in which the state has substantial centralized control over social and economic affairs. Statists are people who detest other people's freedom. Some of them even detest their own freedom. But what they hate are other people's freedoms, especially because they can't control the other people. They don't like that people could say what they want to say, do what they want to do, go where they want to go, eat what they want to eat, look how they want to look. They hate those things. Statists are like private school minded, where everybody got on the same clothes or uniform. And of course, they never include themselves in the statism that they want imposed onto other people. Some do, but most just want that imposed on other people. Now let me show you an example of a statist mindset. This is Yuval Noah Harari.
We need to reinvent democracy for this new era in which humans are now hackable animals. You know, the whole idea that humans have, they have this soul or spirit and they have free will and nobody knows what's happening inside me. So whatever I choose, whether in the election or whether in the supermarket, this is my free will, that's over.
Yuval is one of the top advisors to Klaus Schwab, who is the devil himself. You see me always showing his face in my commentaries. But statist hates freedom. And if cutting your freedom off means cutting their own freedom off, then so be it, is how they see it. And of course, they hide their evil intentions that they have for people behind the veil of being out for the best interest of the public. Like the anti-capitalist people. People who blame capitalism for all of the evils on earth. I've heard capitalism blamed for poverty, rape, robbery, murder, slavery, greed, selfishness, jealousy, and even adultery. Yeah, people, no, not people, because that was only one lady who I heard blame capitalism for adultery. That was a while back. I even forget who that was. But yeah, they blame capitalism for everything. But that's the veil that they hide behind. If we only get rid of capitalism, we can all go on to live happily ever after. Meanwhile, their aim is to drive all things into the hands of being government owned and controlled, including owning and controlling people, not just businesses. The anti-capitalism movement is a movement that often tells on itself. It tells on itself all the time because they claim to be anti-capitalism and anti-big corporation, all while trying to drive power into the hands of the biggest corporation known to man, whose title is government. Now, all things considered, that's the motto of NPR radio. I stopped listening to them, I think it was in 2018 or 2019. I was listening to them for years too, but I had to stop because they started bringing people on there. They started bringing people on the show who was just weird, right? And I didn't know who these people were at the time, but I know now. Bringing people on there talking about how dangerous men are to women, and men are the enemies to women, and boys are the enemies to girls, and how capitalism is the cause of everything bad, and climate change and all that. At the time, I had no idea of what was going on, but I do now. But anyway, all things considered, something that statists don't consider. You heard Yuval hating the idea of free will, and he just hates freedom in general, right? He's been talking like that for a very long time. But about a year or so ago, after he said that about free will, there was that thing that happened in Israel last year, October 2023, with the Hamas thing. Well, in December 2023, some things that he didn't consider while he was hating the freedom of other people.
They are only waiting to take control of the Supreme Court, and then they could unleash this dictatorial flood. Also, with the Supreme Court neutralized, the government could easily rig the elections, for example, by denying Arab citizens voting rights or by closing down all independent media outlets.
You see, Yuval is gay, and that's not rumor or guess or an assumption. You see him here in an interview with his husband right next to him. And in case you missed it, we will see why that's relevant, why his sexuality is relevant in a second. We're going to see.
So we're going to play this clip and then get Lauren Witzke's take on it. Here it is.
What limits the power of the government? In the USA, there is an entire system of checks and balances. In Israel, we have no constitution, no Senate, no federal structure, and no other check on the power of the central government except one, the Supreme Court. Now, the government is trying to gain control of the Supreme Court. If it succeeds, there will be no mechanism that limits its power. Coalition members have already proposed numerous laws and regulations that discriminate against Muslims, Christians, women, LGBTQ people, and secular people. They are only waiting to take control of the Supreme Court, and then they could unleash this dictatorial flood.
In the clip I just played, that video was titled, purposely titled, because they know what Yuval is. It was purposely titled WEF, meaning World Economic Forum. It was titled WEF Kingpin. Yuval Noah Harari exposes Netanyahu's false flag. Okay. WEF Kingpin. In a moment of clarity via his own self-interest, he tells people about the dangers of statism.
This should be a grave concern, not just to Americans who care about democracy or about the Jewish people. The USA might soon have to deal with a new militaristic dictatorship in the Middle East, armed not only with nuclear capabilities, but also with advanced cyber weapons able to strike anywhere in the world.
Now, what he said is totally true, except he represents a power block that I gotta say is probably even worse.
Absolutely he is. Yuval is most definitely part of something worse. Something that statists don't consider is that they're next, or that they're on the same menu that they want other people to be on, or the freedom that they enjoy will be taken too. Now, why is him being gay relevant? Why is that relevant? Well, you heard him mention how LGBTQ is being threatened.
There will be no mechanism that limits its power. Coalition members have already proposed numerous laws and regulations that discriminate against Muslims, Christians, women, LGBTQ people, LGBTQ people, LGBTQ people.
That is his reason for his moment of clarity. Because Yuval don't care about no democracy and elections and all that other stuff he mentioned. No, it's just that while he was wishing enslavement on everyone else, he didn't consider that him and his own kind will be on the menu too. And I don't know how long his moment of clarity will last, but him not considering what would happen to him is typical of statists. They never consider all things. Now, I put a video on Rumble yesterday that I'm not going to put on YouTube. So if you go to my Rumble channel, it's the one with Jane Elliott in the title.
Two of us.
And one of the things I talked about was how a devil ain't got no friends. None. Something that statists don't consider while they're helping to propagate the stripping of other people's freedoms. Statists foolishly believes that it is even possible to remain in good standing with the devil. Just obey the rules and they'll be fine. No, it is not possible. And the statists who think that what they're helping to usher in will merely be fascism or communism or Marxism and the other isms actually won't be that. Because the people they're working for got a lot worse plan than those things. Listen, it is not possible to remain in good standing with the devil. Like the people who used to try to adhere to Adolf Hitler, they found out one day like, hey, this motherfucker is crazy. Ain't nothing we can do to appease him. And they tried to kill him several times in their moments of clarity. You cannot make a devil happy. There's nothing you can do to achieve that.
So this gets into some really dark stuff. And so Netanyahu has a bunch of leftist Jews worldwide at war with him. And it is true that the judicial reform basically makes the central government dictatorial. And so what Harari's saying is true, and I don't like Harari, he's really bad. He's just mad that the group he represents won't be in control of Israel.